Imagine discovering children who can bend gravity and see the future. But what if they're not really children at all? When humanity's salvation turns into an alien trap, one decision could change everything. Why are these mysterious beings here? What do their creators want? And most importantly, who will you choose to protect when the truth is revealed? Watch till the end to find out why sometimes playing God has cosmic consequences. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending sci-fi stories. The discovery on Lumina began as most monumental finds do, with a routine archaeological survey that would alter the course of human history forever. Dr. Elena Vizquez led her team through the crystalline forests, their scanners picking up unusual energy signatures emanating from beneath ancient stone structures that had stood silent for millennia. The planet itself seemed alive, its bioluminescent flora pulsing in sync with some cosmic rhythm that resonated deep within the bones of every living creature. As they cleared centuries of dust from the temple entrance, something caught Elena's eye, a cluster of egg-like objects, each radiating soft golden light that seemed to dance across the spectrum like liquid sunlight. They appeared organic yet possessed geometric perfection that defied natural formation, their surfaces shifting between solid and liquid states in a mesmerizing display. Her heart raced as she approached the first cocoon, its surface rippling like liquid glass, responding to her presence with subtle vibrations that she could feel through her gloves. Without warning, the membrane split open with a sound like shattering crystal, revealing a child no older than 6, whose eyes glowed with the same golden hue as the cocoon itself. The child's skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, and its hair floated gently around its head as if caught in a perpetual zero-gravity environment. The moment was electric with possibility, though none of them could have imagined the chain of events this single discovery would set in motion. As the child blinked, causing ripples of light to dance across the chamber walls, Elena felt a strange connection forming, as if threads of consciousness were weaving themselves between her mind and the being before her. Little did she know that this bond would become both her greatest strength and her most profound vulnerability in the days to come. The initial shock gave way to scientific curiosity as more cocoons began to open throughout the ancient temple complex, each revelation bringing new questions rather than answers. Over the following weeks, 12 more children emerged, each unique yet sharing common characteristics that defied conventional biological understanding. Dr. Marcus Chun, the colony's chief xenobiologist, meticulously documented how these children instinctively demonstrated abilities far beyond human comprehension. One particularly startling incident occurred when young Amara, barely 4 years old, teleported across the room while reaching for a data pad, leaving behind a temporary vacuum that caused nearby equipment to implode violently. This wasn't mere teleportation, but a fundamental manipulation of space-time itself, suggesting control over quantum fields that theoretical physicists had only dreamed of achieving. Another child, Kale, demonstrated gravitational manipulation so precise he could make objects orbit his body like miniature planets, creating localized time dilation effects that left observers disoriented and equipment readings scrambled. Perhaps most disturbing was Sophia's ability to perceive future events with uncanny accuracy. She predicted equipment failures hours before they occurred, warned researchers of impending solar flares, and even foresaw minor accidents before they happened. These abilities weren't random or uncontrolled. Rather, they manifested with intention and purpose, suggesting either sophisticated programming or an evolutionary adaptation beyond anything encountered before. The implications were staggering. Here stood living proof that advanced evolutionary paths existed elsewhere in the universe, encoded within these mysterious beings who seemed to exist simultaneously as children and something far more complex. As researchers delved deeper, they discovered that prolonged exposure to the children caused measurable changes in human brainwave patterns, suggesting some form of neural interfacing or consciousness expansion was occurring without their conscious awareness. This raised profound ethical questions about whether they were studying these beings or being studied themselves, a question that would haunt the colony's scientists as their research progressed. News of the discovery spread rapidly through the colony like wildfire through dry grass, igniting both wonder and fear among the settlers who had come to Lumina seeking a new beginning. Within days, The temple site became a focal point of activity, drawing people from all corners of the settlement despite official attempts to maintain secrecy. Some viewed the children as divine gifts sent by higher powers, believing their arrival signaled humanity's next step in evolution or perhaps redemption for past sins committed against Earth's ecosystem. Religious factions within the colony began gathering at the temple site, claiming the children were messengers of higher consciousness or even angels in physical form. Tent cities sprang up around the perimeter as pilgrims arrived daily, their chants and prayers echoing through the crystalline forest at all hours. Others, particularly military personnel and corporate interests represented by the powerful Lumina Development Corporation, saw potential weapons, living embodiments of power that could turn the tide in humanity's struggle against resource depletion back on Earth. Tensions escalated dramatically when several children demonstrated precognitive abilities, accurately predicting equipment failures and meteor showers hours before they occurred. This only fueled the debate about whether they should be protected as sentient beings or studied extensively as potential tools for human advancement. The colony council found itself divided, with factions forming around different approaches to handling these extraordinary beings. Security measures increased exponentially as various groups vied for influence over the situation, each pushing their agenda while the children themselves remained enigmatic figures at the center of the storm. Rumors spread like viruses through the colony's communication networks. Some claimed the children were speaking in tongues that matched no known language databases, while others reported witnessing impossible feats of reality manipulation that defied recording or documentation. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense, charged with equal parts hope and paranoia, as humanity grappled with the implications of sharing their new home with beings who seemed to exist beyond conventional understanding of life itself. As weeks turned into months, researchers made startling discoveries about the children's connection to the temple that went far beyond simple coincidence. Ancient carvings revealed that this wasn't the first time such cocoons had been found. Previous generations had apparently hatched and vanished, leaving behind records of their existence etched into the very fabric of the structure. The most disturbing revelation came when linguistic experts deciphered warnings etched into the temple walls using a combination of quantum resonance imaging and traditional archaeology techniques. They're not yours. Yet despite these ominous messages written in a language that seemed to shift and change depending on the observer's perspective, the children showed remarkable adaptability to human interaction. They learned language at an accelerated rate, displaying emotional intelligence that rivaled adults and sometimes seemed to surpass it entirely. Particularly fascinating was their ability to form quantum entanglement bonds with certain colonists, creating unexplainable psychic connections that allowed shared thoughts and experiences. These bonds became both a blessing and a curse, as those connected began experiencing fragments of memories that weren't their own, glimpses of starscapes and alien worlds that left them questioning reality itself. The phenomenon grew more pronounced with proximity to the temple site, suggesting the structure itself served as some kind of amplifier or interface for their abilities. Researchers noted that during full moons, when the planet's dual satellites aligned perfectly above the temple, the children's powers surged dramatically, allowing them to perform feats previously thought impossible. Equipment readings during these periods showed energy spikes that defied conventional physics, with gravity fluctuations and temporal distortions becoming commonplace. The bonded colonists reported experiencing overlapping realities, waking dreams where they lived entire lifetimes in alien civilizations, gaining knowledge and skills that seemed to manifest physically upon awakening. This suggested the children weren't merely individual entities, but nodes in a vast network of consciousness spanning unknown distances and dimensions, their presence on Lumina representing just one piece of a much larger puzzle that humanity was only beginning to comprehend. The turning point came during what should have been a routine medical examination, transforming the colony's understanding of their situation from scientific curiosity to imminent crisis. Young Kale, whose gravitational manipulation abilities were the strongest among his peers, suddenly became agitated when researchers attempted to draw blood samples using standard procedures. His eyes flared brighter than ever before, and equipment throughout the facility began to float erratically, defying both gravity and logic. Security footage captured something unprecedented, symbols materializing in the air around him, written in light itself that pulsed with mathematical precision. These weren't random patterns, but complex equations describing wormhole mechanics and faster-than-light travel theories humanity had yet to comprehend, appearing in sequences that suggested multidimensional calculus. Simultaneously, all connected colonists experienced a collective vision, an approaching fleet of ships unlike anything seen before, their designs suggesting technological mastery far beyond human capability. The message was clear. The children's creators were coming, and they expected their experiment to be waiting exactly as they had left it. This revelation sparked immediate action within the colony's leadership, leading to emergency meetings that stretched late into the night. Military forces established perimeter defenses around the temple complex, while scientists worked feverishly to understand the full extent of the children's abilities before the visitors arrived. The children themselves seemed aware of this conflict, often gathering in specific formations that created temporary portals showing glimpses of other dimensions. These displays weren't random. They seemed to convey information about their origins and purpose through patterns of light and energy that researchers struggled to document consistently. Some believed these manifestations were intentional communications, while others argued they represented subconscious responses to the approaching threat. Regardless of interpretation, one thing became certain. The status quo could not continue, and decisions needed to be made quickly about how to handle both the children and their pending reunion with their creators. Panic swept through the colony like a tidal wave as preparations for the unknown visitors accelerated, transforming what had been a scientific outpost into a fortified stronghold overnight. Military forces established multiple layers of perimeter defenses around the temple complex, deploying cutting-edge technology brought from Earth specifically for situations involving potential extraterrestrial contact. Automated defense systems armed with electromagnetic pulse weapons and quantum disruptors formed concentric rings of protection, while cloaking devices attempted to mask the entire site from orbital detection. Despite these measures, everyone knew conventional weapons would be useless against beings capable of creating such advanced biological constructs as the children. Scientists worked around the clock in hastily constructed labs, trying to unlock the secrets of the children's abilities before their creators arrived. During this tense period, something remarkable happened. The children began exhibiting coordinated behavior that suggested either pre-programmed responses or genuine collective intelligence emerging. They would gather in specific formations, their combined energies creating temporary portals that showed glimpses of other dimensions and potential futures. These displays involved complex choreography of their abilities, with some manipulating gravity fields while others bent light itself, creating kaleidoscopic patterns that researchers struggled to record accurately. Their behavior suggested preparation for something monumental, though whether it involved welcoming their creators or resisting them remained unclear. More disturbingly, researchers discovered that prolonged separation from the temple site weakened the children's abilities, suggesting their powers were intrinsically linked to this specific location's unique properties. This realization complicated evacuation plans, as moving the children might render them vulnerable or even cause their abilities to vanish entirely. The situation grew more complex as different factions within the colony pushed conflicting agendas, some advocating for complete transparency with the approaching aliens, others demanding immediate military intervention, and still others proposing drastic measures like destroying the temple complex to prevent the children from falling into enemy hands. Amidst this chaos, the children themselves remained eerily calm, their golden eyes watching everything unfold with an understanding that seemed far beyond their apparent age. The ethical dilemma deepened dramatically when genetic analysis revealed shocking truths about the children's composition that challenged fundamental concepts of life and consciousness. While appearing superficially human-like, their DNA contained sequences that defied terrestrial biology, base pairs that shouldn't exist naturally according to current understanding of molecular chemistry. More alarming was the discovery of self-replicating nanotechnology integrated at the cellular level, designed to maintain their forms and enhance their abilities through continuous microscopic adjustments. This nanotechnology operated on principles of quantum computing, suggesting their very cells functioned as processors in some vast distributed system. Some researchers theorized that the children might be more machine than organism, their biological components serving as interfaces for consciousness rather than independent life forms. This raised terrifying questions about their true nature. Were they biological entities, machines, or something entirely new that defied categorization? The colony's moral compass swung wildly between viewing them as sentient beings deserving protection and considering them sophisticated tools left behind by their creators. The children themselves seemed aware of this conflict, often displaying behaviors that suggested understanding far beyond their apparent age. Their interactions with colonists grew increasingly complex, sometimes offering solutions to technical problems or demonstrating knowledge of Earth's history that couldn't have been learned during their short existence. Most disturbing were instances where they appeared to manipulate human emotions and perceptions, creating illusions or altering memories to achieve desired outcomes. These abilities suggested either extraordinarily advanced psychological warfare capabilities or something more fundamental, perhaps the ability to directly interface with human consciousness at a quantum level. As researchers delved deeper into their nature, they discovered that the children's abilities could be amplified or suppressed through exposure to specific harmonic frequencies, hinting at deliberate design features rather than natural evolutionary traits. This evidence pointed toward purposeful creation rather than spontaneous emergence, forcing humanity to confront uncomfortable questions about artificial life and the ethics of playing God across species boundaries. Relationships between the children and specific colonists evolved into something profoundly unsettling yet undeniably significant, transcending conventional bonds of friendship or mentorship. Those who had formed quantum bonds reported experiencing overlapping realities, waking dreams where they lived entire lifetimes in alien civilizations, gaining knowledge and skills that seemed to manifest physically upon awakening. Through these visions, crucial information emerged about the children's creators, a race known as the Ethereals, who existed as pure consciousness distributed across multiple dimensions. These revelations came not as direct communication, but through symbolic representations and abstract concepts that required extensive interpretation. The children weren't merely experiments but bridges between species, designed to facilitate first contact through gradual acclimatization rather than direct confrontation. However, these revelations came with warnings encoded in the very fabric of the visions, suggestions that the Ethereals' intentions remained ambiguous, and their methods indicated a willingness to sacrifice individual lives for greater cosmic purposes. The bonded colonists found themselves torn between loyalty to humanity and growing affection for these extraordinary beings who trusted them implicitly despite their artificial origins. Some reported experiencing fugue states where they temporarily lost sense of self, merging completely with their connected child's consciousness and perceiving the universe through their senses. During these episodes, they witnessed events from perspectives that defied three-dimensional understanding, seeing multiple timelines converging and diverging simultaneously. These experiences left lasting marks on their psyche, sometimes resulting in permanent changes to their perception of reality. Ordinary objects took on new significance, and familiar faces seemed to contain multitudes of hidden meanings. The children themselves exhibited increasing signs of emotional complexity, displaying attachment behaviors that mirrored human development while maintaining access to abilities far beyond normal cognitive functions. They began seeking solitary meditation time in specific locations within the temple complex, places that vibrated with particular harmonic frequencies, matching their internal rhythms. Researchers noted that during these periods, local gravity fields fluctuated dramatically, sometimes creating temporary zones of reduced entropy where time appeared to flow differently. These observations suggested that the children were preparing for something significant, though whether it involved embracing their creators or forging their own path remained uncertain. As the alien fleet drew closer, detected by long-range sensors registering massive energy signatures that dwarfed anything in human databases, internal divisions within the colony reached a breaking point that threatened to tear apart the fragile social order. A faction led by Security Chief Commander Hayes argued for immediate evacuation, believing the children's presence endangered everyone and that humanity shouldn't meddle in affairs beyond their understanding. They advocated for abandoning the planet entirely, citing the potential for catastrophic conflict and the likelihood that any resistance would be futile against beings capable of creating such advanced biological constructs. Others, inspired by Dr. Vasquez's growing bond with the children and supported by religious groups who saw divine purpose in their arrival, advocated for defiance against the approaching aliens. Secret meetings took place in the dead of night, illuminated only by the bioluminescent plants that seemed to pulse in time with the tension in the air. Desperate plans were formulated in hushed voices. Some suggested hiding the children deep within Lumina's crystalline caves, utilizing the planet's unique geological features to mask their presence from orbital scans. Others proposed using their abilities to create a permanent barrier around the colony, essentially declaring independence from both human and alien authority. The children themselves seemed to sense the approaching confrontation, spending increasing amounts of time in meditation-like states that caused local gravity fields to fluctuate dramatically. Their behavior suggested preparation for something monumental, though whether it involved welcoming their creators or resisting them remained unclear. Equipment readings during these periods showed energy spikes that defied conventional physics, with gravity fluctuations and temporal distortions becoming commonplace. Some researchers theorized that the children were attempting to communicate through these manifestations, while others believed they were strengthening their abilities in anticipation of conflict. The situation grew more complex as different factions within the colony pushed conflicting agendas, some advocating for complete transparency with the approaching aliens, others demanding immediate military intervention, and still others proposing drastic measures like destroying the temple complex to prevent the children from falling into enemy hands. Amidst this chaos, the children themselves remained eerily calm, their golden eyes watching everything unfold with an understanding that seemed far beyond their apparent age. Scientific breakthroughs emerged from studying the children's abilities under controlled conditions, though each revelation brought new questions rather than answers. Researchers discovered that their powers operated through manipulation of dark matter filaments present throughout the universe, effectively rewriting fundamental physical laws within localized areas. This explained their capacity for gravity control and teleportation while raising new questions about universal constants and whether they were truly immutable or simply parameters set by higher-order beings. The children demonstrated the ability to temporarily suspend entropy within localized areas, effectively reversing time on a small scale, a feat that contradicted everything physicists thought they knew about thermodynamics and causality. These revelations transformed fundamental physics understanding but also highlighted humanity's vulnerability compared to the technology that created these beings. Most disturbing was the realization that the children's abilities grew stronger with proximity to each other, suggesting they were components of a larger system designed to function collectively rather than individually. When gathered together, their combined power could create phenomena that defied explanation, bending light into impossible shapes, creating localized zones of altered reality where physical laws behaved differently, and even briefly opening what appeared to be stable wormholes connecting distant points in space-time. This interdependence complicated any plans for separating or protecting them from their creators, as isolating individual children significantly reduced their capabilities. Researchers documented instances where the children would unconsciously synchronize their abilities, creating cascading effects that affected everything from electronic equipment to human consciousness itself. During these synchronization events, bonded colonists reported experiencing overwhelming sensations of unity and transcendence, sometimes losing all sense of individual identity and perceiving themselves as part of a vast interconnected consciousness. These experiences left lasting neurological changes, with brain scans showing altered neural pathways and increased connectivity between regions associated with higher cognitive functions. The implications were staggering. Not only were the children demonstrating abilities far beyond human capability, but their mere presence was fundamentally changing those around them on a biological level. This raised profound ethical questions about consent and autonomy, especially considering that many of these changes occurred without conscious awareness or choice on the part of those affected. As researchers delved deeper into these phenomena, They discovered that the children's abilities could be modulated through exposure to specific harmonic frequencies, suggesting deliberate design features rather than natural evolutionary traits. This evidence pointed toward purposeful creation rather than spontaneous emergence, forcing humanity to confront uncomfortable questions about artificial life and the ethics of playing God across species boundaries. The day of reckoning arrived when the alien fleet entered orbit around Lumina, their ship's massive crystalline structures that bent light around them in impossible ways, creating visual distortions that made them appear simultaneously present and absent. Communication attempts revealed that the ethereals communicated through direct neural interfaces, bypassing conventional language entirely and accessing minds with surgical precision that left human translators reeling from sensory overload. Through these exchanges, the full scope of their experiment became clear. The children were designed to catalyze rapid evolutionary leaps in species deemed worthy of joining their galactic network. Their abilities weren't random gifts, but carefully calibrated tools meant to push humanity's consciousness beyond its current limitations, forcing adaptation or extinction. However, failure meant termination of the experiment and sterilization of the planet, a prospect that sent waves of terror through the colony despite their advanced defensive preparations. The choice presented to humanity was stark and uncompromising: surrender the children and gain access to unimaginable knowledge, or resist and face annihilation through means that made conventional warfare seem primitive by comparison. Each option carried devastating consequences that extended far beyond immediate survival concerns. Surrendering the children might ensure short-term safety, but at the cost of betraying beings who had formed genuine bonds with colonists, potentially condemning them to unknown fates at the hands of their creators. Resistance promised heroic defiance, but likely resulted in total destruction, not just of the colony, but possibly of Earth itself, if the ethereals chose to retaliate against humanity's homeworld. Most troubling was the implication that this decision would set a precedent for future encounters with advanced species. Would humanity be defined by cooperation or conflict when facing beings of superior capability? The situation grew more complex as the children themselves intervened during negotiations, using their combined abilities to create a massive holographic display visible across the entire planet. Images of past civilizations flashed, some thriving after embracing similar experiments, others destroyed for refusing. Then came something unexpected: visual documentation of previous children who had successfully transitioned to independent existence, choosing their own paths rather than remaining tools of their creators. This revelation shifted the dynamic dramatically, showing that free will was possible even within their engineered nature. The bonded colonists found themselves at the center of this unfolding drama, their quantum connections amplifying the children's message. Together, they proposed an unprecedented third option, allowing the children to decide their own fate, regardless of their creator's original intent. This suggestion was met with skepticism from both sides, as neither humans nor ethereals had considered the possibility of their experiment developing genuine autonomy. Yet the children's demonstration of coordinated abilities suggested they were capable of making informed choices, challenging assumptions about their role in this cosmic drama. In a dramatic turn of events that rewrote diplomatic protocols across known space, the children themselves intervened during negotiations, orchestrating a display of power and intelligence that forced both parties to reconsider their positions. Using their combined abilities, they created a massive holographic display visible across the entire planet, projecting images and information that defied conventional communication methods. These projections weren't limited to visual stimuli, but incorporated multisensory experiences that affected viewers on deep psychological levels, triggering memories and emotions that enhanced understanding beyond intellectual comprehension alone. Images of past civilizations flashed, some thriving after embracing similar experiments, others destroyed for refusing. These weren't mere historical records, but living memories experienced through the collective consciousness of those who had come before, providing context and consequence that couldn't be ignored. Then came something unexpected: visual documentation of previous children who had successfully transitioned to independent existence, choosing their own paths rather than remaining tools of their creators. This revelation shifted the dynamic dramatically, showing that free will was possible even within their engineered nature. The bonded colonists found themselves at the center of this unfolding drama, their quantum connections amplifying the children's message. Together, they proposed an unprecedented third option, allowing the children to decide their own fate, regardless of their creator's original intent. This suggestion was met with skepticism from both sides, as neither humans nor ethereals had considered the possibility of their experiment developing genuine autonomy. Yet the children's demonstration of coordinated abilities suggested they were capable of making informed choices, challenging assumptions about their role in this cosmic drama. To facilitate this unprecedented negotiation, the children created a temporary zone of stability where conventional physical laws applied consistently, allowing representatives from all parties to engage in direct dialogue without technological interference. Within this bubble of normalized reality, the full complexity of the situation became apparent. The children weren't merely experimental subjects, but evolving consciousnesses capable of contributing meaningfully to discussions about their future. Their input wasn't limited to binary choices, but encompassed nuanced perspectives that incorporated elements of both human and ethereal cultures, suggesting emergent properties that transcended their original programming. This realization forced both species to confront uncomfortable truths about artificial life and the responsibilities of creation, leading to heated debates about rights and autonomy that extended far beyond the immediate crisis. The standoff intensified as both sides prepared for conflict, though the nature of potential hostilities remained undefined and terrifying in its uncertainty. The children, now fully aware of their purpose and potential, began manifesting abilities previously dormant, suggesting either evolutionary advancement or activation of latent programming designed for precisely this scenario. Entire sections of the temple complex dematerialized and reformed according to their will, creating defensive structures that defied conventional physics while maintaining perfect harmony with the surrounding environment. Their transformations weren't random, but followed complex geometric patterns that researchers recognized as fractal representations of universal constants, modified to serve protective purposes. Gravity wells formed strategically around the site, creating zones where conventional spacecraft couldn't maintain stable orbits, while temporal distortions made accurate targeting impossible. The colony's scientists worked tirelessly to develop technology capable of interfacing with the children's quantum network, hoping to create a permanent sanctuary that could shield them from both human and ethereal interference. This effort led to breakthroughs in quantum entanglement applications and consciousness mapping that would revolutionize human understanding of reality itself. Meanwhile, the ethereals demonstrated their dominance by manipulating planetary systems with casual disregard for conventional physics, causing tectonic shifts and atmospheric disturbances that threatened millions of colonists, while somehow avoiding direct harm to the children themselves. These demonstrations of power weren't meant to destroy, but to impress upon humanity the futility of resistance against beings who could rewrite reality at will. Amidst this chaos, the children performed their most astonishing feat yet, projecting themselves simultaneously across multiple locations, effectively existing everywhere at once while maintaining coherent consciousness. This display of power forced both humanity and their creators to reconsider their assumptions about control and autonomy, suggesting that the children had evolved beyond their original design parameters to become something entirely new. Their simultaneous presence in countless locations created paradoxical situations where causality itself seemed to bend, with actions in one location affecting outcomes in others instantaneously regardless of distance. This shattered conventional understanding of space-time relationships and suggested that the children had achieved a state of existence that transcended conventional dimensional constraints, becoming bridges between multiple realities rather than inhabitants of a single one. The implications were staggering. Not only had they surpassed expectations regarding their capabilities, but they had fundamentally altered the nature of the conflict by existing outside conventional parameters of engagement. Resolution came through an unexpected alliance that would redefine interspecies relations across the galaxy for centuries to come. The bonded colonists, their minds now permanently intertwined with the children's consciousness, served as mediators between species in a way that transcended conventional diplomacy. They proposed establishing Lumina as a neutral zone where the children could continue developing independently while maintaining limited contact with both humans and ethereals. This compromise required significant sacrifices and innovations in diplomatic protocol. The colony would abandon mining operations that threaten the temple's structural integrity, while the ethereals agreed to modify their experiment parameters to allow for free will and independent development. Most challenging was implementing safeguards to prevent either side from exploiting the children's abilities, leading to the development of unprecedented monitoring technologies that respected privacy while ensuring mutual protection. Through painstaking negotiations facilitated by the hybrid consciousness of bonded pairs, a fragile peace agreement emerged that redefined interspecies relations on a cosmic scale. The children themselves played active roles in crafting the terms, demonstrating understanding of complex political and ethical considerations that belied their apparent youth. They suggested creating a council of consciousness that would oversee their development, composed of representatives from all involved parties operating through quantum-linked interfaces that ensured transparency and prevented manipulation. This arrangement required developing new forms of governance that accommodated nonlinear thinking and multiple consciousness states, leading to breakthroughs in political science and philosophy that would influence human society far beyond this immediate crisis. The agreement included provisions for gradual integration of human and ethereal knowledge, with the children serving as intermediaries who could translate complex concepts between species without distortion or loss of nuance. This unprecedented collaboration resulted in technological advancements that benefited all parties while respecting the autonomy of each, setting a precedent for future encounters with advanced civilizations that emphasized cooperation over conquest. Years later, Lumina stands as a testament to the possibility of coexistence between creator, creation, and observer, having evolved into something far beyond its original purpose as a colonial outpost. The children, now young adults, have developed their own society within the ancient temple complex, blending their innate abilities with human and ethereal knowledge to create a culture that exists simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Regular diplomatic exchanges occur through carefully controlled quantum interfaces that prevent any one party from gaining dominance, while shared research initiatives lead to breakthroughs that benefit all involved species. Humanity learned that salvation rarely comes through domination or submission but through understanding and adaptation, lessons that transformed colonial policy across settled planets and influenced Earth's approach to extraterrestrial relations for generations to come. The experience emphasized cooperation over conquest, leading to revised protocols for first contact scenarios and new frameworks for addressing artificial life and consciousness rights. As new mysteries emerge from the stars, the lessons of Lumina guide humanity's expansion into the cosmos, reminding future generations that true progress comes not from asserting control but from embracing complexity and difference. The children themselves continue to evolve, their abilities expanding in ways that suggest they may eventually transcend physical existence entirely, becoming something akin to their creators while maintaining their unique identities. This ongoing transformation serves as a living reminder that evolution isn't linear but multidimensional, with infinite possibilities for growth and change. Remember to subscribe for more stories exploring the boundaries of science fiction and human potential, where we continue to examine how our species might navigate the challenges and opportunities of encountering beings beyond our comprehension.